Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another great episode of Bahrain Now, your source of local initiatives, happenings, talents, and trends. I'm your host, Khalid Idris, here to walk you through our exciting lineup of segments and personalities from around Bahrain. So don't go away, and we'll be right back. The Sustainability Forum Middle East 2024 was held this month with a series of high-level roundtables held across the region throughout the year that delve into critical subjects in the drive towards decarbonization of the MENA economies in its second edition this year. The forum took a holistic approach to highlighting the urgent need for business leaders and not simply to announce net zero and sustainability strategies, but to take concrete steps to accelerate their implementation. And to talk more about the forum, we are joined in the studio by Ms. Tahani Hussain and manager at Bapco Energies, Mr. Michael Wing, head of international portfolios at Infracorp. Hello and welcome to the show.
Great, thank you for having us.
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very happy to have you guys here. Sustainability is something that we always try to highlight in the show. And to start off, I'd like to ask you, Ms. Tahani, could you tell us about the importance of sustainability for Middle East, especially from the point of view of Bapco Energies?
Yes, thank you very much. The Sustainability Forum is an important conference that will leverage on the public-private partnerships between the government as well and the private institutions. In its second edition this year, it highlighted that particularly, it started off by workshops on the first day where they gave the participants hands-on experience on what are the emerging sustainability topics around the Middle East and the Gulf as well. And it also gave them the tools and the skills to implement or start implementing the sustainability agenda, for example, and what's the emerging topics within the ESG community, basically. So for Bapco Energies, this is very important as well because decarbonization as a whole is a collective goal. A company cannot decarbonize on its own. There has to be decarbonization of the supply chain. There has to be decarbonization of the communities that we operate in, for example. So this is a very important step in that process of leveraging that partnership between public-private partnerships as well. And it was great seeing all of these attendees from the audiences as well, from different sectors, from the banking sectors, from the private sectors, including students as well. They attended this conference, and it was great seeing all of that.
It's really good to see how these efforts always really bring together, it was like you said, with the community, and always bringing in different generations, people from different fields, because it's a global issue and it's one that seeps into every kind of economy, every market. And now I'd also like to ask you, could you tell us a little bit about the initiatives that have been taken towards achieving net zero ambitions?
Well, globally, there has been a lot of efforts into achieving net zero efforts. I mean, after COP26, where a lot of the countries, including Bahrain as well, announced their net zero targets. Bahrain announced a net zero target by 2060, 30% reduction of our carbon emissions by 2035, and we need to start making plans, and we have been working on making plans on activating this decarbonization plan and basically implementing it. And this is what the conference focused on, is that how are we going to decarbonize the economy as a whole? Now, your question about what was the efforts that has been achieved and initiatives basically to decarbonize globally. Now, in the past 2 years has been a great milestone, which has been reported as well, that by 2027, the energy from solar capacity will exceed that of coal-generated energy, which is a great thing because abating carbon emissions from coal power plants is something, a big milestone that we have to achieve as well. And besides the net zero emissions that emission reduction targets that you see from different countries, we can see similar initiatives basically taken by the companies as well. The private sector is getting involved as well, and they're developing tools and technologies basically to help countries and projects as well achieve that. And this is great as well. The financing climate as well is heavily evolved, and Mike will be explaining about that as well because you're well aware of it. But for us at Bapco Energies, we're gearing ourselves to getting ready to embrace this new future. So basically transforming from an oil and gas traditional company into an integrated energy company is part of this of the history that we're trying to make as well, and part of the story of decarbonisation that we're trying to align together. And this is the great thing about it.
Brilliantly said, and I think it's really incredible to see how the initiative is coming from all the sides involved, because it's like you said, it isn't something that's going to happen kind of overnight, and to see it kind of become the new norm basically is a very promising start to change.
Yeah.
And now moving on to you, Mr. Mike. How do you view the significance of such international gatherings that facilitate networking in the environmental sustainability fields?
Well, they're critical. I mean, I think Tahani said it very, very well, but this is a global problem. It's a global problem, and without collaboration, without bringing all of the parties together, we will never solve it. This is something, we've mentioned a couple of key words. We've mentioned community, which is something which is very deep in my DNA, because effectively when we're designing projects, development projects, mixed-use communities, this is all about how people live together and work together. But we're also talking about the social contract that we're all involved in. We are all a party to a social contract, which is about preserving the planet and about making the planet livable for future generations. And by bringing all of these people together, all of this expertise, sometimes very unique expertise, we share ideas, we understand concepts that previously we might not have understood before, and that helps us to bring that into our model for future development, and therefore become a lot more creative in our solutions. And really it's a fabulous way of seeing the world a different way, and sometimes seeing the world through other people's eyes. And to me, that's what this is all about, really. So.
Yeah, honestly, it's amazing to see how this like mass collaboration of all of these different approaches and sharing the new technologies in the field. Like you said, it really is like a community effort, and I really like the term social contract, and everybody is on the same page as this. This is a very non-divisive subject, so it's great to see everyone come together. And now, on that note, I'd like to ask, you were a speaker at a panel called Future Cities, Environments that Promote and Enable Sustainable Living. Could you tell us a little bit about the discussions that emerged from that panel?
Sure, yeah, it was a fantastic panel. I was really impressed by the co-panelies, if that's what I should call them. But and again, it was one of those, the great thing about these panels is you do engage with people you may never have met before, and you learn on the panel as you go, and hopefully the audience have a chance to really interact with that learning process. But Future Cities, first of all, you know, where we seemed to get to on that panel, and there was a very strong narrative on that panel. We seem to arrive at a scenario where we think people is what it's all about. And there was a wonderful question from the audience as well, asking us, you know, or saying to us, you were the first panel to talk about people. And I think, you know, this is where it should all start. This is what I meant by social contract. We start from the people and we work upwards. Our cities are there for people to be able to move efficiently, for there to be equity, social equity, whether it's economic equity or the ability to have equal access to learning, equal access to medical. These are all fundamental concepts that we need to embrace and build into our projects, our cities. And it is very much a design-led approach. So the panel discussion really did generally focus around how do we create environments, cities, whether it's new cities, or how do we recreate existing cities so that we can create that ability for people, mixed generations, for mixed cultures, for everybody to be able to move seamlessly, work, home, education, all of the various aspects of daily life, but efficiently using sustainable modes of transport, maybe the 15-minute city, being able to walk quickly, which is something that we embrace very much as a concept. The idea of bringing, say for example, farms and stuff like that into the cities now. These types of greening concepts, which they sound far-fetched, but we are already master planning that into some of our projects in North Africa. These are things that can be done now, and they create this wonderful sense of everybody being involved. You know, if you have a local farm just down the road from your villa, how fantastic is that? And you know that the food is coming from the farm to a local market to your table. Wonderful. And actually Bahrain is a great model for that, because Bahrain has always existed on this small-scale farming infrastructure. And to some extent, I can see us as a country becoming really a leader in this ability to mix all of these uses in a compact environment and create a sustainable environment for everybody. We just need to move towards the sustainable transport and some of the other future scenarios, inshallah.
Inshallah.
I completely agree with Mike. I mean, Bahrain is the perfect example of how a system like this will be implemented in the future, basically.
Yeah.
It's a small environment, and all of what you need to exist in a small city like this is already existing in Bahrain, and we're practicing it for generations now.
Generations,
So
yes.
it won't be something new to introduce to the society anyways.
No, that's right. It's just, this is, I mean, I feel as though we're there. We just have to almost reinvent ourselves a little bit. It's been done here. I feel like I speak as a Bahraini. I've been here so long, but I mean, this is a wonderful country and it has everything here, and there is so much to be positive about. And if we can sort of look back and take those lessons learned over past generations and bring them into future projects, we will have the solution. We really will have the solution. And what better place to do it than Bahrain?
Definitely. And in Bahrain, like you said, I mean, the seeds are kind of already there. All that's really left is for us to water and tend to them, which I think is a very appropriate metaphor given our topic of discussion. And leading on that, I'd also like to ask that from your experience in the various fields of sustainable real estate solutions, what do you think is the future direction when it comes to integrating sustainable materials into construction and in general, like infrastructure development in particular?
Yeah, so again, I mean, and even speaking to the panel that we had the other day, there are two approaches. There is a modernistic approach, there's a futuristic approach to sustainable materials. There are incredible developments in modular construction technology, in concrete panel technology, which allow very rapid construction and which reduce the requirements for concrete, which is really a very inefficient construction product. It's time consuming, it's expensive, it consumes sand, it's quite problematic. So there are a lot of solutions to this already being developed. Or there are modular construction technologies that are becoming exemplar projects in places like the UK and Holland and Rotterdam. There are projects where they are literally building units, complete units off-site, and then stacking them and creating these beautiful apartment buildings. And in fact, we are looking to build one here ourselves just to show how it can be done. So this is something we are actively looking at the moment. But that's the future, and that's looking at the future and looking at existing materials and how we can move forward with those. But again, I like to look at the past as well. And this is, I feel sometimes that we are in a desperate rush to move forward, and we forget the lessons that we've already learned, and we have learned so many lessons. But on the panel, I always talk about Muharrak, I always talk about courtyard housing, I always talk about what we call vernacular architecture. So here you have things like wind towers, you have courtyard villas. These are fantastic design solutions for a warm climate. They work, they create what we call passive cooling, which reduces energy costs for the villa. And these are things that we can look back at now and we say we need to move that idea forward again. Let's look at that idea, and that includes the materials themselves. Adobe and these types of construction materials are fantastic construction materials. This really works, you know. There's no reason why we can't find new ways of using old materials in a more efficient and sustainable way. So I really do believe that there are two paths. One is try and learn from the past and adapt and move that forward, and that's very much the typologies that we see, that we know very, very well, which is that small compact urban framework that we move around very easily and quickly. It's naturally cool, it's naturally energy efficient. You have community, because immediately community becomes part of a compact living environment, and it brings back that social contract again. It creates that social contract. And then there's the other one, which is where we have to move upwards. We will have to move upwards. There's no doubt we have to have a vertical type of living as well. We can't simply keep spreading and moving upwards. That creates a lot of efficiencies in terms of transport. It creates a lot of efficiencies in terms of being able to accommodate many mixes within a particular built asset. And that's where we need to look at these new forms of, say, modular construction, concrete panels, this type of thing. So there are solutions there, and I think Bahrain, again, could be a leader in this, and we are trying to encourage our partners to work with us to bring these types of solutions to Bahrain. But it's a solution that requires all of the stakeholders to come on board, including the planning authorities. So effectively, government needs to work with us, and we can work together then as partners and create something really quite impressive, I think. Inshallah. Again.
Inshallah. I mean, again, it really fascinated me because, like, when we were talking about like the wind towers and everything, again, it's kind of like I mean, it's a cliche, but if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? And even taking into account how the structure of man-made structures basically can be used to foster community as well. And it really shows that sometimes moving forward actually might be, you know, part of that process is looking back and seeing, well, what have we either lost or what are we not giving enough attention to, and let's bring that back if it's going to help us develop. So, I mean, that was something that I just really resonated with me, so thank you for that answer. And Mr. Tahani, how do you hold the view of the advancement of the Kingdom of Bahrain and the MENA region in general when it comes to bridging the gap towards accelerating to the implementation of net zero?
Well, the MENA region in general is progressing towards putting plans to achieve net zero by 2060 and 2050, some of the countries as well, and also have actively participated in the COP28, the COP that the Conference of the Parties that was held in UAE last month. But that doesn't really reflect on the private sector yet. Only 12% of companies have pledged net zero so far from the MENA region companies. And that actively needs the government to set in place policies that will incentivize the private sector to participate into this. Because I completely agree with Mike. This is something that everybody has to be part of it. The private sector plays a big role in it. And also, and it's for the benefit of the people who live in the Middle East in the first place, because climate change affects all of us. And decarbonisation will benefit all of us together. And it's so specific to each country that you working that other solutions that work, for example, in Asia will not work in the Middle East and vice versa. Having said that, I also said that I also have to add that you know, Middle Eastern or regional collaborations and projects, like for example the Middle East Green Initiative, where they pledged to plant 50 billion trees actually by 2030, or and rehabilitation of 200 million hectares of land. These initiatives are collective initiatives by the Middle East as well, and it will get us closer to reducing our carbon emissions. This initiative alone is set to reduce 10% of the carbon emissions globally and 60% of the oil and gas emissions within the Middle East. And these initiatives basically is very helpful to the MENA region that will generate more basically bringing more technologies, generate more income for the companies as well, and give the people who live in the Middle East more comfortable setting to work and to basically prosper under new resources of energy as well, and under new resources of types of projects that we can work on.
It's really amazing to see how this is approached from every singular level. And like you said, when you're talking about stuff like, it's not just about governments, it's also, there is a responsibility even for the private sector. It really is a everyone on deck responsibility, and it really is, it's something that affects all of us, so naturally we all have to be responsible for it. And on that note, I want you to tell us a little, if you can, about the upcoming plans of Bapco Energies to achieve some of the goals we spoke about.
Yeah. So we have been very busy last year, and ever since the rebranding that we made in May 2023, the Bapco Energies have emerged basically, that we're redeveloping our ESG and sustainability goals for the future. So 2023 has been very busy. we have achieved certain milestones within it. We issued, for example, the sustainability-linked financing framework under the ECMA principles, and we also issued this transition financing framework under the same principles. These two pieces of documents sends a very strong image to the investors that we're very, very serious about our ESG goals and sustainability goals as well, more the same. We also did some financial transactions in 2023 where we did the first of its kind a rate swap in the Kingdom of Bahrain as well with sustainability KPIs. We did also issued our first consolidated ESG report last year, and we also joined some decarbonisation initiatives with the oil and gas community around us. We joined the oil and gas methane pledge 2.0, or GMP 2.0 they refer to it, and we also joined the Oil and Gas Decarbonisation Charter, an initiative that was launched in COP28, and more than 40% of the oil and gas production around the world is included in this initiative. So this, and we're still setting plans for the future and how we're going to reach the decarbonisation plans that we have put in place, and this is just the start, and I'm happy to say that we're led by our chairman, Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and our group corporate CEO as well, Mark Thomas, and they're very serious. Our leadership are very serious about achieving those decarbonisation targets.
Honestly, it's just mind-blowing to me sometimes, because when you're not really thinking about what goes on behind the scenes, when you're not a specialist in the field, you don't sometimes realize how much goes into basically just keeping the planet, maintaining its integrity. So I mean, really hats off to you both for your contributions in the field, and to all the other major players, and to all of the effort, quite frankly, that you put into it. And to wrap up, is there anything that the two of you would like to tell our viewers?
Well, I mean, Tahani has really given such a broad coverage of the whole issue, and really I'm so impressed with what you guys are doing. It's really impressive. But I think, look, we mentioned the private sector, and I think coming from the real estate sector, which is one which, let's face it, is not traditionally considered to be a green sector, I think there do have to be some very definite goals. There has to be some very definite, a very definite path to the future. And I think through, as Tahani mentioned, green finance initiatives, structured ESG around the finance initiatives, it's really, really critical. I mean, we're in a position as a business where, for example, we must achieve environmental goals. We must do it. We can't simply contract ourselves out of it because we don't like it or it costs us money. We've committed ourselves to it, and I think, as Tahani said, this is now becoming the corporate reality that we're committing ourselves to these goals, and the more people that do, the more this will become just a regularized pathway to the future.
And from my side, I mean, all of this work that we're doing now, it's going to continue for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years until 2060. Even though that we're putting the plans now, all of this implementation will have to continue for the next 50 years. So what I want to say is green collar jobs, as they call them these days, basically is that specific or specialists that work in the sustainability fields, in the ESG fields, and even regular jobs, but with a green twist to them. Like, for example, corporate financing in the banking sector, or even in the building sector, or construction sector as well. All of these, sustainability will go, as you said, ingrained in every aspect of our life. And I want to encourage the next generation basically to consider it in their next year's choices.
Brilliantly said, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. That was a really illuminating talk. I mean, I know I learned a lot, so thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And we look forward to the next edition of the Sustainability Forum Middle East, which is considered a dedicated platform for supporting regional decarbonization initiatives and commitments. Stay tuned, and we'll be back after this. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at what's going on beyond the studio in the following report. Gear up for a thrilling display of tennis prowess as the Kingdom of Bahrain prepares to host the ATP Challenger from February 11th to the 17th, 2024 at the renowned Public Security Officers Club's playgrounds. This eagerly awaited event, now in its third consecutive year in Bahrain, is organized by the Ministry of Interior's Public Security Sports Association. The championship promises an exhilarating experience for tennis enthusiasts, featuring 32 singles players and 16 doubles teams in a quest for glory.
This booth is something to show the Bahraini community that tennis is a really good sport that we should play. I think that the Ministry of Interior they wants to show the people that there is a tournament in Bahrain and for the beautiful sport of tennis. I think that's a really nice sport that you should practice more and play.
Really excited for it.
It's a big growth for Bahrain's sports, for the sports cup as well, and it's a growth for Bahrain internationally, so I'm proud of it.
I believe that if Nadal is gonna come, I'll be supporting him, or if not Nadal, then Djokovic.
With registrations already in progress, the stage is set for an epic showdown on the courts, highlighting Bahrain's commitment to fostering a vibrant tennis culture. Stay tuned for updates and highlights next week as the 2024 Tennis Challenger unfolds, bringing the excitement of professional tennis to the heart of Bahrain.
Sulwan is a psychiatric hospital specialized in treating all mental disorders according to the most recent treatment methods, which are internationally recognized. The hospital's mission is the treatment of patients with the highest level of professionalism and harnessing and investing the experiences of the best qualified medical staff to achieve the best therapeutic results through the implementation of treatment plans and psychological tests which are adopted internationally.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've made it to the finish line. A huge thank you to all of our guests for joining us tonight. Another huge thank you to all of you watching us at home. As always, be sure to reach out to us on our social media accounts shown below. We love to hear from you. This was Khalid Hidris, and until next time, good night and God bless.